wanted to come back to this idea of quality because I think that is perhaps ignored a little bit. But a lot of times in the last couple of years, I have had clients that only are interested in SDR content, but we go through an HDR mastering workflow because it makes better SDR pictures. So it's not just that you get 3 different versions, you get better versions than we did before. Now we do have quite a few standards already, and it seems like that we haven't finished with those standards yet, there's still more. So Bram, you're a technologist. What does your crystal ball say for the future?
Well, I think that the way that HDR is built out along PQ, which is basically the underlying standard for things like HDR10, HDR10 Plus, and Dolby Vision, is relatively robust for the future. And what's kind of nice about this is that while, like you say, the technology is evolving, there's so much room in that standard because we're only using a fraction of its current capability. So my crystal ball on HDR technology is just that we're going to be able to utilize more and more of that existing standard and get brighter images, get better dynamic range over time. So we're going to exploit what's already there and maximize those capabilities as displays get brighter. I think that's one of the key things to look forward for in the future. The other thing that I've seen consistently in all these markets as HDR gets adopted more is that once a producer, a production, an investor, a studio, whatever, gets into HDR, it's very hard to ever give that up again. Once you see it in HDR, going to SDR is a little depressing, which is, I think Zeb has a ton of experience in this as well, which is you try very hard to sell people on, even if you think SDR is going to be your deliverable, please consider starting in HDR, and even if you don't end up utilizing it, just know that you can always go back to it. It's something else you can exploit in the future, but I know you pitch that constantly.
Yeah, to what Bram said, but also what Kevin said before, the quality of the conversion processes from HDR down to these other versions produces such a high quality result. I don't want to work in SDR or cinema settings anymore. I want to be in that big space in HDR, and I trust, and I've done, dozens, if not hundreds, of deliveries through HDR at this point, and I'm so happy with the results in the different environments. Seeing it in the cinema, seeing it on my phone, see it on a tablet, TV, everywhere. It is so consistent, and it makes me happy as a creative to see that. But also, and it's not that you just deliver into specific broadcasters or streamers, so BBC, Netflix, Disney, Amazon, HBO, all of these different broadcasters that take HDR, but also we're seeing all of our distributors want it to be able to sell it as well. So all of the distribution companies that sell into different markets are all demanding or at least requesting HDR delivery also.
I think another really important point too to make about PQ when we're talking about technology, right? So this intersection of technology and creativity and creative intent, PQ is an absolute standard. An incoming code value equals a certain luminance, a certain color on screen. When we adopt PQ, when we adopt HDR, there's a much better chance of your creative vision being what the end user sees, because it's not relative like SDR, where things can look very different depending on the technology you have. This absolute standard of PQ just has a much better chance of preserving creative intent.
And I'm supposed to read the crystal ball for Kevin, so I feel like I should do that. And I think it's probably a way off, but in reality there'll be a point where we just have HDR on everything. There's not an SDR display in the world anymore. And that's probably the long-term thing. We won't be having this conversation because it's all there will be. That's an obvious direction.
就是跟他们刚才谈的这一段啊，现在我就觉得我其实又有新的感受，就是这个 HDR 呢，我觉得它是一个全流程的东西。其实这个在我看来，它真的就是未来。而且我相信你们要是真的和这个摄影、跟这个电影、跟这个视觉艺术有关系的人，这个就是未来。你们要先行一步，要不然又赶不上头班车。 就作为前期的工作者，我们拍不好的时候，我们求后期，哎呀，哥们儿，给咱补点光吧，给咱这儿弄得不好吧。其实都是因为我们在前期监看的时候，我们没有看到。我们说现在的短视频啊、手机视频啊，那将来还有电影吗？一定会有的，而且将来的电影会越来越棒的，是因为这个电影本身的魅力，大屏幕被放大了之后，它给人类带来的那种理想的画面是人类以前没见过的。你们想想，我们这个人类这种动物，从那个远古几百万年前这么过来，到现在，我们脑子里的基因都有多么强大？我们在不停地追求最舒适的感觉。其实我们周围的所有的这些光线，都和自然相近，我们都模仿自然的。所以呢，我就觉得这个东西 ，HDR 就是一个革命性的电影将来能够生存的一个最关键的一项技术。所以我这个可能说的有点绝对啊，但是我现在的感受就是，第一次如果 HDR 监看能给到我们前期的摄影师，我们拍摄的时候我们会更感动的。将来都是越来越真、越来越伟大的美丽的视频作品，所以大家在这个方面有所追求的话，将来我们一定会屹立不倒的，一定会在这儿长久生存的。像那些短视频追求简单糊弄人，不靠质量取胜的东西，它一定会退出历史舞台的。所以呢，大家要坚定这个，就 HDR 就是我们的就视觉工作者的未来。